Well, hello everyone. My name is Dr. Sarah Dempster, and I am the unit coordinator for Introduction to Academic Writing. And I would like to welcome you very heartily to the first lecture in our 13-week series. Very exciting to be here. So, what I'm going to be doing is welcoming you to the unit, talking you through some of the skills that we're going to learn, and possibly help you with some of the day to day challenges that you might have more generally in the UPP, in finding things on Milo, and potentially these are things that might help you in other units as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is to just talk about who's teaching this unit. So I'm the unit coordinator, and I'm also going to be the on-campus lecturer in Hobart. In Launceston, we have Barbara Baird, who is going to be taking classes there. We have Mike Harris in Burnie, and the distance tutor that you guys in particular will have a lot to do with is Fiona Redgrove. So, in terms of what we're doing today, I would like to just talk about discussion boards and all of the sort of, getting to know you bits and pieces, some ground rules and tips that might be useful as you navigate your way through this unit and through the UPP, and the basics about an essay as well. So, all of these things I would like to cover with you. Um, and hopefully we're not going to have something that's too heavy for you right at the beginning of the semester. So here, what you're seeing is what we would do on campus. Now, clearly, if you are a distance student, that's a little bit more challenging for you guys to do. But I am going to take this opportunity to just show you the discussion boards on Milo. So what you're seeing here is actually Milo. If you're completely new to the UPP, this might be quite a daunting prospect to look at all of this, but I'm going to take you through a few bits and pieces now. So you can see here we've got lots of different units. We have Learning at University, we have Supported Studies, lots of different things that you can click on. So what we're going to find is Introduction to Academic Writing here. If we click on that one, so this takes us to our main page. You can see we have a unit outline here and if you click on here, it will take you through all the different bits and pieces that we will be doing. But up the top, this is where we have, all of the bits and pieces, assignments, grades, attendance, that sort of thing that you might need at some point. But what I'm going to take you to today is discussions. Okay, so here we've got discussions. And if you scroll down, first of all, here you can see that there are questions for me, for the unit coordinator. So if you have anything that you would like to ask me, please feel free to come in here, ask a bit of a question, and I will try and get back to you as soon as I can. Um, in addition to that, if you keep scrolling down, this is where we have our discussion threads. Now, Fiona Redgrove is going to be your distance tutor, but I would like to pop my head in here every now and again and to see how you guys are going as well. If we click on here, you can see that I've already written a bit of a post here and I've welcomed everyone to the UPP 025. And what I would really like is for you guys to maybe just introduce yourselves. Fiona Redgrove will be your distance tutor, so she'll be introducing herself and taking you through bits and pieces to do with the unit. But I think it would be a really nice thing to maybe just introduce ourselves as well. So if we go back to the PowerPoint that I was just going through, that's what I would like us to do. So if we can maybe introduce ourselves on that discussion board, that would be fantastic as a start. And what I would like you to do as a secondary activity is to maybe have a bit of a chat about your writing. So, what writing have you done in the past? Um, Remember that we're not in the business of judging you about your attitude to writing. Writing, a bit like maths, tends to have people who have very strong feelings about those subjects. But the bottom line with this unit is that we are going to give you the skills to get really good at your essay writing. So, all you really need to bring to us is an open mind and a dedication to getting your work done. So, what I'd like you to talk about is what kinds of writing you've done in the past, and what your attitudes or experiences or thoughts about writing have been. So, whether you had a particular teacher who inspired you, or whether you've been doing some writing in a job somewhere that you've had, what are your experiences about writing? And also, why do we write as well? We talk about writing as a means of communication, but what is the nature of that communication? What do we have to say to each other? Okay, so this is a little bit of a rundown on Milo. I've already taken you through the bits and pieces on the live site now. So we have announcements and content and discussion. So what I'm going to do here is to actually take you back to this Milo site. So here we have all of these tabs at the top. Content is one that's going to be important for you guys. So there will be different study materials that are listed here. There'll be different assessment information that is listed. So the more you can familiarize yourself with Milo, the better. Going back to discussions, if you have any difficulties with, you know, uh, any sorts of activities that we're doing, any assessments, this is the place where you can raise any of those queries. And there might be other people who are in the same situation as you, or your tutor might jump in and offer some solutions to any of the challenges that you've been having there. So if we go from here to the unit outline, this is what we're going to look at now. So if I just minimize this again and go back to our Milo site, um, if we go back, so if you remember um, on our main page, so this is where we are with all of our units. We go back to UPP025. And here is the unit outline here that I pointed out earlier. So if I click on here and open that up, okay. So here we have the unit outline. So this details everything that you're going to do in this unit. If we scroll down, there are lots of bits and pieces here for you to read. I'm just going to pick out the main ones for you. So we have our lecturing staff. So this is a photo of myself. This is Mike Harris on the Cradle Coast. This is Barbara Baird, who is in Launceston. And this is Fiona Redgrove, who's your distance tutor. This is a bit of a rundown of what the unit is all about. These are some contacts if you're having any difficulty. These are our student coordinators across different campuses that you might like to connect with if you are on campus. And these are the assessments that you will have. So you are going to have 3 essays that you will write this semester. And there will be a mark for participation throughout the semester. So if you are a distance student, your participation mark is going to be based very heavily on your communication in those discussion boards. So please try and keep up that discussion where you can. So here we've got assessment details, comparative essay writing. I won't go over these in too much detail now because I don't want to overload you at the beginning of everything. You can look at weightings and breakdowns, but again, I don't want to go into that in too much detail. And then in terms of resources, those will be provided as we go through. You'll find that the resources are already on the Milo site, but I'll talk about that a bit later on. There's a bit more of a rundown of Milo. And then if we scroll down to the end, just bear with me, everyone. Okay, so this is a breakdown. If you want to be very methodical about what you're doing, this is a breakdown of what we will do every week. Note that there are no tutorials in the first week, so that just means if you can jump onto those discussion boards and interact a little bit with your fellow students, that would be fantastic. But if you ever want to know what's coming up, this is where you find the information. So mid-semester break, and then these are the weeks running down the left-hand side. So if we go back to our slides here, this is again something that we would be doing with our on-campus students. So this is perhaps just something to be thinking about in your discussion board. So what do you expect of your teacher? What do you expect of yourself? And what do you expect of other students in your class? It's nothing that we need to drill down too far with. It's just something to get you thinking about what university is and what the expectations are of particular people. I know certainly as your lecturer, I'm someone who is very dedicated to you learning everything that you want to in terms of improving your writing. And I really value feedback from students in order to really hone my eye and my approach to helping you guys do better. But I dare say there'll be lots of things that come out of this that you guys might like to talk about in your discussion posts. In terms of, other people's approaches historically to this, we've had lots of different points that have been made by students. So expectations of students may have been to respect each other, to listen to each other, and to take responsibility for your learning and to be punctual as well. So obviously, some of these things like being punctual, I suppose for a distance student, that's a little bit more fluid. But I think the idea is just, turning up, showing up, doing the best that you can, and taking that approach to your education really seriously. Expectations of me, these are all fairly self-explanatory, respect and guiding students and, taking my work seriously are things that I've already spoken about. So there, and these are just some feedback points that we've had in the past. Okay. Okay. So, in terms of the expectations of the university's code of conduct states that students are expected to participate actively and positively in the teaching and learning environment. They must attend classes when and as required, strive to maintain steady progress within the subject or unit frame, comply with the workload expectations, and submit required work on time. Now, I suppose as a distance student, you might be feeling at some points that, it's really, hard to do this on your own. And, when you're on your own, it can sometimes be hard to find that motivation to really engage with your education. But that's where I would really ask you guys to jump on those discussion boards, maintain really good connections with your peers, with your distance tutor, Fiona, and with myself. Email me if you've got any problems as well, because I think there are lots of opportunities to be had in distance. The other thing that I would mention at this point is to check your UTAS email regularly. We send all of our emails to your UTAS email. We don't send them to private email addresses because they have a habit of bouncing back. So we make sure that firstly you have a UTAS email and we will use that if there's anything we want to get in contact with. So be really familiar with that. Check it as often as you can. Link it to your phone if that's something that works for you. Um, I would also encourage you to become familiar with Milo. I do know if you're a new person to the university and to education and to technology, Milo can be a really scary prospect. But the more you get in there and use it, the better. So just give it a go. Um, And yeah, try your best with Milo. The more you're in there, the easier it's going to get. I would also recommend that you speak to staff and students where you have any issues, if you've got any questions. And this week, play around with the UTAS website. So if you want to go, for instance, to the library website, have a look at that. Maybe play around with how you might find books on particular subjects. That's a really good thing to do as well. Just do it in an easy way. Perhaps make yourself a big cup of tea or coffee and just relax and see what you can find out about that. Now, in terms of consultation times, we have different methods of doing that. So on campus, a lecturer might have particular times where they can consult with their students. So they might say between 3 and 4 on a Monday afternoon. I tend to just say to my students, if you have problems, make an appointment with me and I will find the time to meet with you. With distance, it's a little bit different again because you have Fiona as your tutor. So if you just email Fiona, then she will be able to connect with you, but you can also use those discussion boards to connect with her as well. Or if you need to phone Fiona, that's also an option. So, the anatomy of an essay, what exactly goes into an essay? Let's have a look. Okay, so according to Zemak and Rumasek, an essay is a group of paragraphs written about a single topic and a central main idea. It must have at least 3 paragraphs, but a 5 paragraph essay is a common length for academic writing. And I would certainly agree with that. I think in my own sort of background, I've come across a lot of essays that are a 5 paragraph essay. It's a very common structure um, that you use. It is enough time to really argue a topic and to be to present information in the amount of detail that you need in order to show off what you know. So that's a reasonable thing to define it as. According to the University of New South Wales Learning Centre, an academic essay aims to persuade readers of an idea based on evidence. And that's another key thing that we're going to be talking about is the way in which we use evidence to back up what it is we say. Okay, now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pull up a sample essay for you to look at. Um, this will be available on the Milo website, so if you'd like to take a closer look at any points, then you can do so. So this is just an idea of what it is we might start to look at in terms of essays. You can see here that this is a really classic paragraph. You can see also that it's the first paragraph, so it's also an introduction to the essay. So it says here, these days it seems like everyone is worried about how the world will meet its energy demands when we have run out of oil and natural gas. Scientists and researchers are investigating such power sources as solar energy, wind energy, and even energy from hot rocks beneath the Earth's surface. However, there is one energy source that I believe should not be developed any further. In fact, I believe that we should stop using it as soon as possible. Even though it can provide the world with a source of electricity, nuclear power is not a good energy source because it is too expensive, the materials used in the power stations are not safe, and there is a great possibility of accidents. So I know that that text might seem a little bit overwhelming at this point, but when you break it down, it's just giving you an idea of what this person might like to say. You can see that there's a good overview of what this is about. So, nuclear energy and the fact that it's something we need to think twice about. There's a little bit of background in terms of scientists and researchers investigating different power sources like solar energy and wind energy. Um, but there's one that this particular student believes should not be developed any further, and that is nuclear power. But you can also see right at the end that there are three really clear ideas that are given here as to why it should not be explored. And that's a really classic thing in an essay as well, because number one, nuclear power is not a good energy source because it's too expensive. Number two, the materials used in the power stations are not safe. And number three, there is a great possibility of accidents. So, what that means is that each of those 3 points are going to feature in the 3 paragraphs that are coming up in the essay. So, you can see here that the paragraphing continues. Where we've got nuclear power is not an economical energy source. And this student goes on to talk about all the different points. The point that I will make is about evidence that I raised just a moment ago, because you can see here nuclear power is not an economical energy source. First of all, nuclear fuel is expensive. It must be taken out of the ground and transported great distances. As fuels are used up, they will become even more expensive, such as oil and gas have. So, this is a kind of evidence that's being used to support what this student has to say, and that's a really critical part in essays. In addition, nuclear power stations cost a lot of money to build and to operate because of the great care that must be taken with safety. Because the people who work in nuclear power stations must be highly trained specialists, salaries for workers are also higher. So you can see that these are examples of evidence. So salaries would be higher, that nuclear power stations cost a lot of money to build. These are all points that are used by the student to back up what it is that they're saying. So there's a bit more to read from this. I won't go through that right now, but if you would like to go through and read this essay more closely, please feel free to. Okay, so what are the basics of essay writing? So here we've got a diagram of the sorts of things that go into the essay writing process. Um, we usually have some kind of question that we are investigating. We have some kind of information that we're feeding into the essay. We have, and often starting with mind maps is a good way to generate ideas. But honestly, it's the process of writing that is really central to what it is we're doing here. So it's often seen as a kind of a cycle. So we write and we read to understand more about a particular subject, and then we think about it a little bit more and continue to write. Okay, so for this week, your independent tasks are to number one, print out and read the unit outline carefully. And that's going to be a really good test for your understanding of Milo. So maybe have a look and see if you can do that for a few other units as well. Have a look at the Milo website in general, because there's a lot of information on there. If you spot something that doesn't quite look right, or you feel like you can't find the information that you need, you can get in touch with Fiona or myself. Um, and number three, check your UTAS emails every day. That's a really important one, because we will be communicating with you through email. Reread your notes from today's class. So, as you're going through your lectures, one of the expectations being at university is that you learn to take notes and to keep them in a place where you can find them again. Now, this unit that you're doing doesn't have exams associated with it, which I'm sure many of you are very, very pleased about. But what we're trying to do is to help you retain information and to have a bank of notes that you can refer back to if you go into an exam later down the track, or if you are someone who just wants to keep that learning and perhaps refer back to it as you do other units throughout your university career. So reread your notes from today because we believe that you should be actively learning that information. Write down the most important messages that you took from today because this is a good way to actually retain that information. And in general, do as much reading, writing, and thinking as you can with essay writing and actually with writing in general. Um, you need to be reading and writing in order to be a writer. Writing on its own doesn't really work that well. You've got to be looking at what other people have written in order to develop writing that is really full and rich and considered. So do that as much as you can. Okay, so that takes us through the last bit of the lecture. So that's a really concise one for today. You will have more to go through in the lectures to come. So yeah, again, I'd like to welcome you to UPP 025 Introduction to Academic Writing. And I would like to invite you to go through and to investigate the materials at your leisure. Good luck with your other units as you go through and explore them, and I will talk to you very soon.